All right, Kat, you want to go ahead and get started?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Kat Davino. I am the Programs Director at the Down Syndrome Association Houston. I want to thank you for joining us today. We get lots of questions about Social Security, wait list, all kinds of things. So we figured who best to talk about it than the professionals. So Michelle Morris is here today from Consolidated Planning Group, and she will be discussing these items, these topics with us today.
Thank you so much for having me and for letting us do these webinars for your groups and everybody who's here today. Thank you for being here and taking time out of your Saturday morning. I hope you've got some good strong coffee or orange juice or whatever snack or drink you want. And we'll go ahead and get started. I do have a couple of things, little housekeeping items. We cannot see you or hear you because we're in webinar mode. So if you have any questions or comments, you can go ahead and put those in the chat box. We are recording this webinar, and after everything is said and done, later on today, you will get an email with a copy of the slides, a link to the recording on our YouTube channel, our contact information, all of that sort of stuff that you're going to need. So it will be recorded. You should get it later today. If you have questions, put them in the chat box. And so today we're going to be talking about Medicaid waivers, eligibility for SSI, and preserving your benefits. Consolidated Planning Group is a holistic financial planning firm. We look at all aspects of a family's financial life. And we especially focus on families with special needs loved ones. The founder of our company and her husband have 4 kids, and 2 of them have special needs. And, Allison has been a financial planner for nearly 30 years. And when her girls were teenagers and she started to see how difficult this was and how many, tips and tricks she wished that she knew, and not knowing exactly what to do kind of made her angry. She said, why does this have to be so difficult? So it became her company's mission to really focus on education and advocacy for the special needs parents out there. And we are very proud to serve the special needs community. So hopefully you'll get some helpful information today. Like I said, feel free to ask any questions you like. I'll get to as many questions as I possibly can. So jumping right into it, there are 8 waiver programs that are available here in Texas. They're Medicaid based, and they serve different aspects of the community. And we're going to get into what, excuse me, what each one does. But there's CLASS, the Community Living Assistance and Support Services. Deaf-blind with multiple disabilities is called DBMD. Home and Community-Based Services is HCS. Texas Home Living, TXHML. Medically Dependent Children's Program, that's the Mdcp. There is the STAR Plus waiver. Now that's for 21 and above. Youth Empowerment Services, which is the YES waiver, and Community First Choice, CFC. So these different waiver programs have different eligibility rules for them. And because of that, they have wait lists, but some of the wait lists are longer because the waiver itself applies or can apply to far more people. It's more broad. And then some of the waiver lists are very short because it's a much narrower number of people that can actually use that waiver. So let's get into what each one of these does and how they can help you. So first, CLASS. It helps give supports to children and adults. There are over 200 different conditions, cerebral palsy, spina bifida, all kinds of different things that can qualify you for CLASS. Your disability has to have started before age 22. So as you can see, because there are over 200 different disabilities that this can apply to. And it applies to anybody who had the disability before age 22. This one is going to have a long wait list, and we're talking 15 to 17 years. So it's important that you get your kids on wait lists for these waivers as soon as possible, because you don't know how long exactly that wait list is going to be. The next one, deaf, blind with multiple disabilities. Now, this one is going to be much narrower because it only applies to children and adults, but they have to be deaf and blind or have a condition that is leading to them being deaf and blind, plus another disability. HCS, Home and Community-Based Services, again, it's a broad one. Children and adults with intellectual disabilities. That you could be living in your own home or in a small group home with no more than 4 people. But this waiver can help pay for, well, all of the waivers can help pay for a lot of different things. Mdcp. Now, this one is for children under the age of 20 who are medically fragile. If you're on the MDCP program or on their wait list, once you turn 21, you're going to move over to STAR Plus, but MDCP is for medically fragile children under 20. So next, of course, is STAR Plus. If you're a medically fragile person, and you get to the age of 21, then you're going to transition over to STAR Plus. And again, this provides things like in-home nursing care and respite hours and things like that. They work through a managed care organization, and it helps you get care in your home so that you don't have to go to a nursing home type facility. So you transition over to the STAR Plus list when you turn 21, and it's not very long because, again, it's a narrower range of people who qualify. Texas Home Living, intellectual disabilities, again, children and adults who live in their own home or a family home. So this one is not for people who live in a group home setting, but if you're in your own home or your family's house. Yes, the YES waiver is for children under the age of 19 who have serious mental, emotional, behavioral difficulties. In many counties here in Texas, there's not even a wait for this one. But if your child has some serious mental, behavioral difficulties going on, if they're at risk of harming themselves or others, running away, things like that, that's what the YES waiver can help with. And then finally, we have community first choice. It allows the state to provide attendance services and more supports through Medicaid for people with disabilities. They can help with daily living activities, hands-on assistance, supervision, teaching people how to take care of themselves and what they need to do. And again, this one is offered through an MCO, a managed care organization. And this one, again, doesn't have a very long list, usually under a year, so that's good. That's one of the ones that you should apply for if you believe you qualify. Oh, I went the wrong way, sorry. Okay, so all of the waivers can provide adaptive aids, financial management services, to help children and adults with disabilities learn how to handle their money. Supported employment. There is a great vocational rehab program through the Texas Workforce Commission that can help with that. Employment assistance. They can test your student, your child, and see what kind of hurdles they're facing when it comes to employment, and teach them how to overcome those hurdles and be more employable, how to find a job, how to stick with a job. They can help, the waivers can help with minor home modifications. Now, you can't remodel your whole house just for the fun of it. They're talking about things that are needed to improve the life of your loved one. Respite care, all but Mdcp can provide professional therapies like occupational speech therapy, music therapy, massage, even horse, equine therapy, art, all kinds of therapies. They can help pay for prescriptions and any dental work or nursing help that you might need. So these waivers definitely can provide a lot for families. And people say, oh, you know, we don't want to use the Medicaid doctors. You don't have to. You can use your own doctor and then let Medicaid maybe pay the copay or pay for prescriptions or maybe pay for the things that don't need a real expertise from your personal doctor, like x-rays or scans or things like that. So it's really important to have both, and you have to be qualified for Medicaid to be able to get these waivers. So you have to keep your child qualified. Some other things that waivers can pay for: transportation. If the person needs transportation to get to work, to and from work, or doctor's visits or things like that, they can help. They can help pay for some residential services. Now, not all residential care situations are going to allow you to pay with a waiver. Many of them are private pay, but some do accept waivers. As I said, it can pay for equine therapy, day hab programs, and even nursing help. So there's a lot to it. Generally, most of the waivers, as we have talked about, are for all ages. Mdcp, you remember, is for 20 and younger, and Star Plus are for 20 and older, and the Yes waiver for the 19 and under mental issues. Equine therapy is horse therapy. So for financially, you have to stay, or your child has to stay within 300% of Social Security, not Social Security, supplemental security income guidelines. So you cannot have more than $2,523 to their name. It doesn't look at the parent's income. So you just have to make sure that they don't have very much money in their name. And they have to meet the eligibility, the functional eligibility criteria for that waiver. So if you're looking at the DBMD, the deaf, blind, and multiple disability waiver, then they have to qualify. But you don't have to qualify when you put their name on the list. You have to qualify when their name comes up for services. So again, that could be a year, a couple years, 17 years. But once their name comes up and they say, okay, we're ready for you to receive these services, that's when you have to prove that you qualify. And we have heard some stories recently from some clients saying that there might be some confusion when you call in to get your name on the list, that they're asking at that point questions about whether or not you qualify. That's not right. Anyone should be able to put their name or their child's name on the list. So if you do run across that, you want to maybe take note of who it is that you're speaking to and who their supervisor is. So we're going to get into how to apply and how many you can get and all that stuff here in a second. So there's two funding paths for waivers. One of them is through the interest list, the wait list. It's a first come, first serve list. It's statewide, so all of Texas is getting on these lists. And the wait can be really long. There's also waivers that are made to promote independence and keep people out of institutions like nursing homes or state-run institutions. Those waivers help you address a crisis situation, and it helps people move out of institutions if they're already in. So those are two different ways that you can get waivers. So how to apply, how to get on the waiting lists, what do you need to do? So for Mdcp, class, and DBMD, there's one phone number. Now, Mdcp, medically dependent children, and DBMD, deaf, blind, and multiple disabilities, those are narrow lists. You might not all think that applies to you, but class applies to almost everybody. So everybody on this webinar should be calling that orange phone number, because even if you don't apply for those two, class will probably apply to you. So that write down that number. I'm going to stick on this page for a while so you can write all this down. And you will get these slides after our webinar is finished. For HCS, Texas Home Living, and CFC, that's the Community First Choice, these are all very broad waivers. So again, you want to be on this list. To get on those waivers lists, you need to call your local intellectual disability authority, your LIDA. And to find that, you go through the Health and Human Services website. The address is down there. You can find your local authority. It's going to be something like MHMR, Bluebonnet, the Harris Center. So you need to call them and make sure you're on the list as well. So most everybody on this call needs to call two phone numbers. You can get on as many of the wait lists as you can, as what you think will apply to you. Now, when it comes to receiving the waivers, you can only get one at a time, but they pretty much overlap in what they cover. So as long as you have one, you should be good to go. So don't worry too much about that. But yes, you can get on as many of the lists as you want. Now, if you have someone in your life who is over 21 and needs that STAR Plus waiver, that number is down at the very bottom. So that won't apply to everybody here, but the STAR Plus is for over 21. And you might want to take note of that number if your loved one is getting close to 21 years old. All right, so you're going to want to call the orange phone number and look up your local authority and apply through them as well. Okay, yes, equine therapy is like horseback riding, and I think they let the kids, just work with the horses and brush them and all of that stuff. You can apply here. Okay, I think I've got all the questions answered as we go on. Don't panic if you haven't gotten this all written down. We're going to send it to you. So let's talk about a crisis diversion spot. So as I said, some of these wait lists can be very long, and you're on the list and you don't, they call you every couple years, or you call them and you say, where are we on the list? And they say, oh, you're number 72,000 or whatever. Oh man. One thing, while it's in my head, I want to mention that if you move within Texas, you won't lose your spot on the list, but you do need to call and let them know your new contact information. Okay, so if you move, especially within counties, to a different county, you need to call and let them know, hey, I used to be in Harris County and the Harris Center was my local authority. Now I'm out here in Waco and MHMR is my local authority. So you need to keep them updated, because if they can't find you, they can't give you services. Okay. So back to crisis diversion. If you are in a situation where you or your loved one is in crisis, you can contact your local authority, your LIDA, and tell them that you want to request an HCS crisis diversion waiver. The LIDA, your local authority, will help you with this, but you do need to stay on top of them and stay involved and make sure it happens. So what do they consider a crisis? So we're talking about if your child if you see a shift in personality and maybe they're starting to become a real risk at harming themselves or harming others, or maybe, you and your spouse are taking care of your kids and one of you passes away and now it's just one person taking care of the kids and you really just can't hold it down, you really need help. Those are things they're talking about, crisis diversion. Or if you or your spouse also becomes disabled and you have to take care of a disabled child, they can help with that. They can move you right to the top of the list for issues like that. But it does have to be a crisis. And this is not the time, I know a lot of us are very, very strong. And sometimes we tend to say, oh, everything is okay, I've got this. This is not the time to do that. This is the time when you call and you tell them, things are bad and I need help, and they will help you. If it doesn't seem like they're listening, like I said, your LIDA can help. Also, Every Child is an organization that can help you. Every Child and the ARC of Texas. The ARC of Texas can also help. So if you need to kind of go over someone's head, that's how you do it. So when we're thinking about special needs planning and thinking about the future of our loved ones, there's a lot to consider, right? So it's really good if you work with a special needs planner that can help you formulate your plan for the future. There's a big difference between special needs planners and special needs attorneys. You need both, probably. And we don't necessarily cross over because, like, as special needs planners, we are not attorneys. But you do want a special needs attorney who can do things like your special needs trust. They can help you file for guardianship, which we'll get to in a minute. Power of attorney, your will, help you with things like that. Whereas special needs planners, which is what Consolidated Planning Group is, we can help make sure that the money is going to be there in the future, and that you file for all of your benefits correctly and that you don't put any of those benefits at risk by making mistakes. So you do need both, and we can recommend special needs attorneys throughout the state of Texas to help you on your journey. You need to gather together some planning documents when you're thinking of getting your special needs plan together and you're thinking about what you need to do. You need to look at what you have in place already, what trajectory your family is on financially. Make sure, if you're going to talk to a special needs attorney, you have to have diagnoses and doctor's information and all of that stuff prepared and ready to go. And maybe you need to update your will, so you're going to need your old one. If you're interested in talking to us, you need to think about what life insurance you have in place, what brokerage accounts or savings accounts or 529 plans you might already have in place. Things like that we help with. One thing that we like to talk to people about is developing a letter of intent for your family. We do have a template that we can give people, but really you don't need a template. A letter of intent is really, you sit and you write down pretty much everything you know about your family, especially your special needs loved one, in case something happens to you and somebody needs to step in. So you know way, way more about your family than anybody else. Personally, when writing a letter of intent. I would do it on the computer because it's easy to edit, go back and you can add to it later, or you can change things as you need. I would start with who they are, where they were born, what diagnoses, who are the doctors, what are the medications. But then naturally things will flow for you and go into, what are their routines? What makes them happy? What throws them off? What can they not handle? And if they're in the middle of a situation, what can you do to help calm them down? What is it about your special needs loved ones and your whole family that people would be needing to know if they had to step in tomorrow? So the letter of intent can be kind of difficult, but it's really important because so much more than anybody else can know about your loved ones. So work on that. It can take a long time. And like I said, it needs to be kind of a living document, because as your child grows and ages and develops, things will change. So you need to be able to change that. But also you need to make sure that somebody knows where this letter lives and how to access it if you're gone. Okay, so make sure that you leave instructions for that sort of thing as well. And you need to think about your vision of how you hope things are going to look for your child in the future. What kind of situation do you want them in? Do you think that they're going to be able to work? Do you hope that they're going to live independently and hold down a job? Or do you know that that's not going to be a viable option? You hope that they're going to live in this particular facility, this residential place, or do you hope that they're going to be able to get a group home? Or what do you want for them for the future? So those are some things to consider with your special needs planning. It can be quite overwhelming thinking about, once you're gone, who is going to take care of your child and how is that going to be paid for? So there are some ways and things that you can do to help. First of all, make sure that you preserve their eligibility for state and federally funded programs. It might not be a ton of money, but every little bit helps. And you need to keep that eligibility for Medicaid to be enrolled in the waiver programs. So it's very important. You might want to establish a special needs trust for their future care. Any money that is in a special needs trust will not be counted against them for that eligibility. Remember, they can only have about $2,500 in their name. You don't want to mess that up. So it's important that you put money in the special needs trust instead of in their bank account or something. And one thing to remember, and it gets a little confusing, we said earlier that for the waiver programs, your children cannot have more than 25 something. It was 300% of the amount of SSI to get the waivers. But if you want your child to qualify for SSI, the supplemental security income, they cannot have more than $2,000 in their name, period. So you need to consider what exactly they qualify for, what you want them to qualify for, and make sure that you're not, having too much money in their name. Your current life insurance and your assets can help provide funding for their care. If you have that, you set it up to where the beneficiary is the trust. Okay, don't put their own name on that, because if they get that money, boom, no longer qualified. But make the life insurance and any assets, make the beneficiary be the trust, okay? You can also have money saved for them in an ABLE account. Now, an ABLE account, everyone's heard of like the 529C college savings plan. That's a 529C. 529A is the ABLE account, and this can be used for anything that will help achieve a better life for an individual with a disability. So you can put money into a 529A, $16,000 per year can go in there. And you can put additional money in if the child or the person is working. The only rule is that the disability must have begun prior to age 26. So you can be 35 years old and have an ABLE account as long as you can show that your disability started before you're 26. You can have both a special needs trust and an ABLE account. And the reason, special needs trust would be for things like your life insurance beneficiary, because there's going to be a lot more money than $16,000 a year. Another thing with the ABLE account is that we would discourage you from having more than $100,000 total, $100,000 total in that ABLE account, because then again, it can affect their eligibility for benefits. Okay, I don't see any new questions, so I'm going to keep going. More stuff to think about that should be on your special needs planning radar. We talked a little bit about how to develop a comprehensive special needs care plan. You're going to want to think about how much money your kid is going to need when you're gone. So if, for example, you think that your child is going to need partial residential care, we want to know not just how much that's going to cost right now, because right now you're here taking care of them. They don't need partial residential care right now, but maybe in 20 or 30 or 40 years when you're gone, they're going to need that. So how much is it going to cost in the future? And then once we figure that out and we think, okay, but my kid is going to be in there for maybe 20 or 30 years. So what is the total cost going to be? We can help you determine that through a future care cost estimate. And then it gives you a number that you kind of keep in the back of your head in terms of, this is how much money my child is going to need once I'm gone to take care of them for the rest of their life. And that number can be quite daunting. We know that. Make sure you're on the waiver interest lists. Again, those phone numbers we talked about before, and you're going to get these slides, so you'll have those numbers in your email. Understanding the differences and knowing when to apply for your SSI or Ssdi benefits. SSI is through Social Security, but it's called supplemental security income. And your child should qualify when they turn 18. Now, prior to age 18, they won't qualify most likely because the government is looking at your income. So if you have more than $2,000 or $3,000 if you're married, your kid is not going to qualify. But once they turn 18, as long as you have done a good job of keeping money out of their names, once they turn 18, they should be able to qualify for SSI. The full amount of SSI right now is $841 a month. And there are some different things that you can do to make sure you get the full amount. We've heard that many people are stuck at about 560, and we understand how to fix that. Make sure you get the full 841. So if you have questions about that, you can reach out to us separately. And then Ssdi comes later, or if they've worked, or if they're drawing off a parent's record, things like that. ABLE accounts, we talked about a little bit already. We can help get that set up. Beneficiary designations, again, make sure that your child is not listed as a beneficiary on anything. Maybe it's your life insurance, or maybe your bank account has a transfer on death stipulation to it, where when you pass away, the money has to go somewhere. Maybe it's your house. Just make sure that it's left to the trust, not to your child. Again, with special needs trusts, we talked a little bit about how to fund them. One extra note on that is that if you are in a situation where there's child support, a lot of times you can get child support beyond age 18 if your child has a disability. So if you do, though, that extra money can be counted as income to your child. So it will need to go to a first party special needs trust. Okay, and it's a little different between a first party and a third party. Your attorney will be able to help you figure out exactly what's what and what money needs to go where. But just be aware that child support can mess things up. You know, it's supposed to be there to help if it gets paid, but you just need to be careful about that. You might want to start touring residential living facilities, maybe 5 years early, 7 years early. There can still be wait lists for that. You might find the perfect situation for your family, and then you find out that there's a 5-year wait list. So it's a good idea to think ahead, find out which residential housing facilities allow what, what are their qualifiers and what do you need to know. We have had one residential living panel discussion already. We've had one. You can find it on our YouTube channel. And it was kind of like a speed dating situation where the different places, I mean, it wasn't the place, obviously, a person representing each of these different facilities came on and said, okay, this is who we are. This is what we do. This is who our clients are. We had one, it's on our YouTube channel, and we're going to have another in, I think, mid to late October. So keep an eye out for that if you want more information about residential facilities. I saw that somebody raised their hands, but if you would just go ahead and put your comment or question in the chat box, if you do have a comment or question, that would be ideal. Okay, guardianship and alternatives to guardianship, like a power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney. There's partial guardianship, there's supported decision-making. An attorney will need to help you with those things, but you can get started when you are within 6 months of your child's 18th birthday. Okay. The law requires that you go with the least restrictive option. And something that you want to think about definitely, even with your kids who are neurotypical, once your child turns 18 and becomes an adult, hospitals and doctors don't really need to talk to you anymore. Schools don't need to talk to you. So you want to remember that. For example, for me, my older son is 21 years old. He is going to school in Chicago, and we have a power of attorney and a healthcare power of attorney in place for him, because if he gets hit by the L train, there's no rule that the hospital has to call me. So we did make sure that we file that kind of paperwork, even for our children who are not special needs. Another thing, we keep talking about beneficiaries, and if you should happen to pass away and your child receives your life insurance, for example, and we say if it's a special needs child, you need to put that money into a trust. But what if your child doesn't have any disability or special needs or anything like that? Do you think that your 18-year-old could handle getting $1 million or whatever your life insurance might be? I know my 18-year-old, we have the 18-year-old and a 21-year-old. I know he's very smart. All of our kids are very, very smart. But I also know that he really, really loves classic cars. And so if he were to inherit my life insurance right now, Do I think that he would make the best decisions for his future? I'm not sure. Do I think that maybe he would have 3 or 4 really amazing classic cars? Possibly. So think about your children, whether they're neurotypical or whether they have a special need of some sort. Think about whether or not they would be ready to have a giant bunch of money dropped in their lap. Okay, and back to our list. The last thing on the list, post-high school education options. So there are a lot of options out there for your children. Going straight to college might not be right for them. Maybe you could take a couple of classes or a class. Maybe you go to the community college or look at a certificate program or a technical school. There's also, transition classes and things like that available, programs that are out there that are available. So I've been blabbing your ear off this whole time, and you might be thinking, why should I even listen to you? This is Consolidated Planning Group. We are a financial planning firm and special needs planning firm. Like I said, the husband and wife who own the company, Allison and Jeff, have 2 special needs daughters. The other husband and wife who are advisors at the company are me and my husband, Andy. So we are just a small independent firm. We're located just outside of Houston in the Sugar Land and Missouri City areas. When you call us, you're literally calling our cell phones. You're not calling some giant 3,000 person conglomerate company who has no idea who you are. You're just calling us. We also have a couple girls in the office who help out with paperwork and appointments. And this is Meredith, our marketing director, who does all these great webinars for us. We are members of the Academy of Special Needs Planning, and we are National Social Security advisors. So just like any other financial planning firm, we have all of the certifications and registrations required, but we go even further by adding special needs planning services, and we can help you with that. So we're not tied to working with any large company, but we can run with all those big dogs. Ooh. So one thing that we always offer is a free consultation. Your initial consultation is free. What we do during that consultation is listen to you and your questions and get as many of your questions answered as possible. We want to hear about your family and about what you're going through and make sure that you've got things on track as much as we can. Then we go through how we can help you as a firm and what our planning options are. And then we see if we're a good fit to work together. So you can get your free consultation by using the QR code. I think everybody knows how to do that. You open your camera app on your phone and you hold it up to where you can see that code, and then it should open a link. And that link will take you directly to our calendar system. You can just pick any time that works well for you, and we'll have a Zoom meeting to go through all this stuff with you and your family. You could also call our office, which is that 281-690 number, or email the office. Like I said, all of these webinars that we do, they're always free. We do like 2 or 3 a week. They all live on our YouTube channel, which is down there on the bottom. And our Facebook page is a great place for articles that can help, and advertisements of the webinars that we're doing and things like that. So I'll leave this page up for a while so you can make sure that you can grab that QR code if you'd like. If there's any other questions, now would be the time to get them in your chat box because we're running out of time. But I really just want to say how much I appreciate everyone for showing up this morning and being here with me. I hope that the Saturday morning is more convenient maybe than during the work week. But we're always here for questions. If you need anything, you can always reach out to us. And we really appreciate you, Kat, for hosting us and having us here today.
No, we appreciate you guys. You always are Meredith, I'm like, Meredith, I have this topic someone's asking about. And she's like, oh, I got your presentation. Don't worry, here we go. So thank you guys. And you guys, Consolidated Planning Group helps with everything. And if they don't know the answer, they know who knows the answer for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to them if you need anything, or reach out to us and I can reach out to them. But we are so excited for our partnership that we have with you guys and all that you do with us, Michelle and Allison. You guys do so much for us. So we really appreciate it.
Well, we're just so honored to be able to help. And again, this was recorded, so it'll be on our YouTube channel. And you're going to get an email. Everyone who registered gets an email, and usually a phone call to follow as well, just to make sure we've got everybody who wants to make an appointment set up. So thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. It's Saturday, so go out and have some fun, or get things done, or whatever you need to do. Everybody, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and we'll say goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Perfect.